Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Brian, and I am not Katie Stark, your presenter today. I know you are all looking forward to learning more about hrHQ and getting this overview in the webinar. I want to take just 1 minute of your time to talk about Converge 25 if you haven't already heard about this wonderful event. And I mean 1 minute. I'm going to set my timer right now. Here we go. So, this is the same user conference our clients have come to know and love, enhanced by the coming together of all of our users across all product lines for education, collaboration, and fun. We're going to be at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas this October 6th through 9th, and we really hope that you're going to be joining us. There's so many reasons to come, but today is actually a big day. Today is our session selection day. We just opened up session selection, over 100 sessions that you can choose from to get the education you want during Converge. And that does include a whole track of HQ suite classes, an HR class, HR roundtable. There's so many different things that you can learn from the educational side at Converge. Some other reasons you might want to attend is all the networking. We'll plan on having around 1,000 people at this event that you can network with, learn about your product with Foundation, learn about other products, the HQ suite. We're also going to have our dev team on site where you can give feedback and learn more about the products that are being offered by our Foundation suite of products. So my 1 minute is up. I'm going to add some additional resources in the chat feature here for you to view if you want more information. If you don't want more info, feel free to ignore it and just enjoy your hrHQ overview today here with Katie Stark. So with that said, Katie, I'm passing things over to you and you can get the ball rolling. Thanks so much and hope to see you all in Vegas.
Thanks, Brian. Alrighty, so I just want to do a couple little housekeeping items here before we kind of get going. We're going to let everybody know that you guys are on mute. So all the lines are muted, but we do have a chat that you can ask questions in the questions area. We have somebody moderating today where you can ask questions throughout the webinar, but everybody's lines are going to be muted. About halfway through our webinar today, we are going to take a little break. We got some feedback from some other webinars that we've taken and given to the clients, and we've heard you and we listened, and so we're going to do a break about midway through so people can get a glass of water and kind of stretch their legs a little bit, and then we'll get back into it shortly after that when we take that break. You do have access to the workbook in the handouts section to the right under the Go To Webinar. It's just the user guide that we're going to be kind of going through here today. And then these webinars are designed for a large group of people, right? So 10,000, something like that. Lots of people, any of our clients can look at these webinars. People have registered, even if they're not here in person, they will get a recording. So we may move quickly, but there are going to be resources if you have extra help. We do offer paid training sessions, customized help. You can always contact our support team as well. Like I said, this session will be recorded, so you'll receive an email from GoToWebinar. You'll also be able to visit our YouTube playlist, and it's usually available within about a day after the webinar. We will have a survey at the end of our webinar as well, where you can ask additional questions. You can give us some feedback. We always love to hear feedback so we can know what topics you guys want to see, what it is that you guys want to hear, and how we can do better for you guys going forward. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started here. So again, we're covering hrHQ overview today. So we're going to kind of be bouncing back and forth a little bit between a little bit of Foundation, a little bit of hrHQ, and that being our admin portal and our employee self-service. So Foundation itself is obviously we're going to be housing employee records. That's going to be having we're pulling the information in from hrHQ. We'll show you how to do that today. This is where your payrolls ran, all of those things. hrHQ is a web-based platform. So there are two websites for this, and the first being your admin website is the administrative side here. And so that is hrhq.myhqsuite.com. And it will bring you to a screen that looks like this. This is going to be administrative portal. You go ahead and get signed in here as an administrator. So we have two levels here of hrHQ. hrHQ has a basic and a premium. I'll get my two-factor authentication code for security purposes here for The portions of those are going to be varied based off of what they have. So our basic is just going to be for pay stubs. You can request PTO, and the premium version is going to have onboarding paperwork and things along those lines. So you can do onboarding, performance reviews, and things along those lines. So if you have hrHQ currently and you're not seeing all of the icons, or some of your icons are grayed out on the left, it's just you just have the basic most likely. But we'll be covering kind of both here so you can see what the full package of hrHQ does have to offer. When you log into your administrative dashboard, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. Mine is set up for a demo database, so I have my little Converge logo here for my company, but you can add your own company logo here. And then you'll see your company name information. This information will come from the security area of Foundation. So it's not something that you change in hrHQ. It pulls directly from your database that you're seeing here. We have a little widget for all of our employees that we have, which ones are active, currently having new hires for onboarding, any that are on leave and inactive, and we'll talk about how to change those statuses here today. You'll have an onboarding progress graph for anybody who's currently in the middle of onboarding, whether they've started, not started, and then what your current turnover rate is in graph format over here. Up at the top here, our icons that are here is this profile icon is where you can change your password. You can change your two-factor authentication method. So if maybe you had it for email and you want to switch it to a text message, or you have an authenticator app you'd like to use, that's my preferred method. You can switch that here and it'll allow you to change it. You can also sign out from here as well. So left of that is our notifications area. This is our in-app notifications where you can see anything that's happened recently for us, where we can mark those cleared or as read. You can get email and text message ones if you'd like as well. I typically just, most of the time, HR is in here often, so the notifications in the platform are usually sufficient. You know, we all get enough emails as it is, right? So less emails for me, in my opinion, is better. So I like having the notifications in my dashboard. The HQ Suite logo here is just going to show you all of our other HQ Suite apps that you can have if you have them available to you. So the database I'm connected to is just the hrHQ, but if you had Project HQ, Safety HQ, Executive HQ, you can actually move over into those products as well using this icon if you had those connected to your database. Our Help Center here, our user guide. This is the administrative user guide. For the admin side, you can download that here. This is the same guide that is in the handouts section of our GoToWebinar. If you have a question, you can log a call from here as well. It's the same log a call function that you use for Foundation. It's just an easily accessible area for you to do that. And then a program change request. If there's a new feature or a suggestion that you would like us to know about, we are always listening for feedback from you guys. You can absolutely submit a program change request through that link there. One of the newer features that we have added in one of our recent updates and releases that we sent out was our language switcher. You guys asked for Spanish, so we do have the ability to switch both the admin side and the employee self-service side from English to Spanish. And then these little people icons here are letting you know what side of the hrHQ platform you're on. So I'm currently on the HR administrative side. This would be highlighted orange here if I was on the employee side. So if your login accesses you to both the administrative side and your personal employee record side to view your own pay stub, you can move back and forth. Many clients tend to have a separate login for those, so that way, even if they're no longer with the company, they still have access to their employee side. It's linked, and it's the same. It's a completely separate login. It's not dependent on like a company email, for example. Over here on the left, we have all of our functions and our settings for hrHQ for the administrative side. And then if you do have multiple companies or multiple databases that you're linked to, this is where you'd be able to swap between those if you do have multiple. Be able to move between them here if you have the same login for both. We're going to start by going into our settings, kind of talk about some high-level overview of how we want our system to work, different settings here that you will want to set up when you're doing hrHQ. First being, again, you can replace your company logo here. You could have also done that on the home screen that we saw. Your HR contact information is important, right? This is where you can specify what your employees see for who they should contact if they have a question for HR. So this is where you can use your little pencil icon and you can edit and add who the person is, phone number, if they have a special extension, an email address of who your employees should contact in HR if they have questions about their payroll, onboarding, benefits, anything like that. This company information here, again, is going to be pulling from your database in Foundation. I always like to specify that this is the phone number that your employees are going to see if they need to contact somebody. This is just the information to verify what database it is that you are connected to. Make sure that you're in the correct company. Before we get into users and permissions, I always like to start by setting up and going over how we would like our system to function for different things in the system. So under our payroll and taxes, for our pay stubs, we can determine when we want our checks to be visible to our employees. So if we would like our checks to be visible on the check date itself, so let's say our check dates are Fridays, by having this set on the check date, you could process payroll on Wednesday, on Thursday, and your employees still won't see it until Friday. If you have this set to post date, this will allow your employees to see it as soon as payroll is processed. So once you have finalized and posted your payroll, that is when they would be able to see it in your system. The show selections, this is where you can edit what your employees can see on the stubs in hrHQ. By default, just the first three will be checked. So their current hours and earnings, year-to-date hours and earnings, and taxes and deductions. Fringes are not enabled by default, but you can absolutely check those so that way your employees can see their union fringes as well. The pay stub available date is where you can add new pay dates and edit when the funds are available to employees. So when you can see those, and you can also search for a specific pay date by using the filter. So you can kind of adjust those new pay rates or pay dates and when the employees are allowed to see those by individual pay date. Our W-2 tab. This is the settings for what our W-2 has here and when they will be available to the employee. Now, it's important to note for these dates that these are not retroactive. So 2024, right, those W-2s have already went out. You cannot change this date and for 2024 after this has already passed, right, for when they've already been sent. Once that date has passed, you cannot retroactively change it to make it available for your employees. It needs to be set prior to those W-2s being issued. So this is when they'd be available to the employee and when you want to notify them for those W-2s. You could see your prior years and future years here. You can see previous ones. So I didn't select dates for my prior year. For this year, I do. Our payment method. This would be where you can determine if your employees are allowed to get paper checks or if your company only says direct deposit only. You can enable or change and turn off the ability for employees to opt to get paper checks. So if they should only have direct deposits, you can change that here. Now I have this little yellow message here that says there are employees who have pending direct deposit changes that I must approve or reject in Foundation before the payment method can be switched. It's essentially just saying exactly what it sounds like. Somebody's made a change that I have not fully approved yet, so it is not allowing me to make these changes until I go address that change that is going on. So when you see this, it means that there's something pending that you should address first. On our benefits and deductions, these can be synced directly from Foundation. Now, if you have not done any linking with your database yet, you won't be able to add any benefits. There will be nothing available. So where you would see that, you would get this no deduction or benefit codes have been imported. That will be in your Foundation integration where we see these two little arrows going back and forth. Now, the nice thing about hrHQ and Foundation is they talk to each other. So when you've done all of your payroll maintenance, everything's already set up. You have all of those codes and such in your system, your 401k, your health insurance, things along those lines. You can have all of those synced and pulled through into hrHQ. So for the purposes what we're referring to, our benefits and deductions. You can see here any that are outstanding. I don't have any additional ones here for me, but if I wanted to import one, I'd be able to check this box and I could import that miscellaneous deduction. So that way it will be available in my list. You must import the ones that are relevant for your system first in order to be able to import employees. So if your employee record has accrual plans, so you're doing PTO, you need to first import your accrual codes. Again, I've already imported mine here today, but you would show them here, any that are available, and then you can import your accrual plans. So on and so forth. Now you'll see that there are some things that I don't have imported because they're just not relevant for my payroll. I don't put cost codes on my employee records, so I have no need to import those cost codes into hrHQ. My general liability is based off of revenue, not payroll, so I'm not importing those into the system. Jobs are not going on employee records, so on and so forth, right? So anything that's not relevant to you, if you guys are non-union, there's no reason you need to sync a union. You kind of get the idea. But anything that does exist on your employee record does need to be synced first before an employee will be able to be pulled over because it sees and identifies those fields filled out and it wants to try to populate them but doesn't have that data available. Once all of those have been imported that are relevant for you, you will be able to go import your employees. I usually recommend doing these in small batches, right? A couple at a time, letting your employees know before you send these out and before you import them that they will, can get a notice so that the way they're aware that this is going to be a thing. If there are any issues with any employees, right, they will be showing under your import issues. And some common import issues are going to be things along the lines of there's no email on the employee record. There's no phone number, right? Some of these fields are required in order for an employee to be set up and imported into hrHQ. The email is crucial because that is what their login will be when they're imported. So we recommend that be a personal email rather than a company email. So even after they're no longer with the company, they can continue to access those pay stubs. Phone number would be if that way if there's text message notifications get turned on, things along those lines. Another field that is commonly forgotten in the employee record that causes issues with importing is this start date. So Foundation, when you're creating an employee, will require you to have a date hired in order to save a record, but it will not force you to have a date started. This does need to be filled out in order for an employee to import. So you can certainly make it the same date as the hire date. It could be their actual start date if it was truly different than their hire date, but it just needs to be filled out in order to import. Again, phone number, it can be phone number or cell phone, email, and start date are the most common ones that we see with import issues when those are not filled out on the employee record. If you get an issue with your import, it will give you that in your notifications as well to tell you what the issue is. So if someone is missing a employee record or something along those lines, date start required. Here's a good one. So Jordan Miller failed because the date start is required. So it will let you know what that field is so you know what to correct. So going back to our benefits and deductions, we have our codes already synced. You know where they came from. I can edit one that I already have here. I have linked that foundation deduction and I'm naming it in hrHQ, so what my employees can see. Now, this is super helpful, especially if you've been set up with miscellaneous deductions that are for multiple health insurance plans. For example, we have a HEO for health employee only and HEF for health employee family, right? We have all these different levels and your employees may not know what HEF versus HEO is. So you can change what those are or what the verbiage is that your employees see through hrHQ so they don't have to have just the code. You can have a much longer description. It's not restricted to just 401k. You could say 401k withholding if you would like. Viewable to employee means that they will see it on their end, so they know that that is available. Sometimes where you may not want this to be turned on would be if you have maybe a health insurance that the employer pays, but there's no employee portion. And so you would like to have it turned off for the employee to not see it, because you don't want them thinking they're paying that, right? Just for simplicity purposes, might be an example of why you wouldn't want that to be viewable to employee. Now you'll notice that there is a difference. There's a benefit and there is a deduction. And sometimes people are not quite sure. They're like, well, deductions can be benefits and they're kind of the same thing. And the big difference between hrHQ, between these two, is that a deduction is one that is set that cannot be changed by the employee or the hrHQ admin. So an example of that would be perhaps child support withholding, right? The employees, that's something that they can enroll in or change, right? That's something that a court order issues, so they shouldn't be modifying that field. But a 401k, they can opt to do 5% or 6%, or they can do a fixed amount, right? They have the ability to change at any time they want. So we would make that a benefit. So benefits are modifiable by the employee and they can be changed. Deductions are not. They are just a fixed value that they see there. Now, it's important to point out that the admin does have the ability to approve those changes if the employee does make them. So perhaps you don't want the employees changing them unless HR has reviewed that they've submitted to the Fidelity or Charles Schwab or whoever your 401k is through. They have to do something on their portal first, so you can have them make that change, but then the admin is the one that finalizes that change to make sure any other things that were done or need to be done for that change to take effect have been. So those are not automatic changes. There is an admin that must approve any changes those employees make. So those are just listed here. I have my health plans where they're deductions. The employees can't change the amounts. They're just seeing those here. Time off, there's a little toggle here for including disabled plans and PTO balances. And so what this is going to do is based off of the employee record, any employees that do have multiple plans on them. For example, if you guys do a level plan where they're available on first 5 years, they get this much PTO, then it goes up. You can allow any time that has been accrued on the prior plan to show up. So if it is not a use it or lose it, or if that plan has been disabled and they're now accruing on this, but they didn't lose the time that they had already earned here, that will allow you to see both. So it's important to note that just by disabling one, it doesn't take away all of the time that they have accrued or earned on that code. It just stops it from accruing further. So if we want to see that time available to the employee, that you'd want that toggled on. Documents, this is just an acknowledgement verbiage, what you would like at the bottom of any documents that you are having your employees sign, what you want that verbiage to be. There is this standard verbiage that is showing here in your settings that's already populated, but you can click your little pencil icon and modify that if need be. Certifications. If employees are allowed to manage their own certifications, you would want to toggle this little toggle here. If HR is the only one that's managing those and you don't want them managing them on their own profile, you can toggle that off. And then certification types. So you can create different categories for your types of certification. So if we just have a training certification, if there's some safety certifications that you would like, ways just for you to group those certifications. You do need at least one category in order for you to be able to create certifications in the system. Subcategories are where you can say what type of safety. So if you have multiple within that, right? So if I have an OSHA 30 for my safety, if I have other ones in here, I can create subcategories within the main categories. Performance management has a whole lot of functions here. General settings would be your review retention period. So any canceled reviews, when they automatically delete themselves. So they'll hang out in hrHQ for 3 months until they are automatically deleted is the setting here, and you can change that. So if maybe we canceled it, but it's just because we're going to postpone it a month, it'll still be there for the next 3 months. So you can always reissue that if need be. And then same with goal retention. You can set goals in performance management, and those ones will automatically be deleted in 6 months. Review cycles. These are any that are if they're reoccurring or if they are one time. You can create different custom cycles for how often these reviews are happening. And it can reduce some of the manual work for when they're issuing those reviews. Rating scales, there are some pre-populated ones in here for you. So if you want 4 stars with no labels, if you want them to be agree, disagree, NA on a scale of 1 to 5, excellent to unsatisfactory, and these can be set to where you can label them or change them if need be. You can change the name of them up here, and then if the rating scale is on a 1 to 5, same thing. If you wanted a star rating instead of numerical, you can toggle this on as well. You can also add a NA, or the numbers can be your labels instead of the names. So you can kind of pick what you want that review for those ratings to be, and you can set a default one by clicking the little star. So my excellent to unsatisfactory is my default. That's why there is no star here, and it's on the left. If I wanted to change it, I would just click the little default on whichever one I want my new default to be when I'm creating new rating scales. Review templates, this is where you can create your own templates. So when you first come into hrHQ, there are no review templates in the system. These will all be kind of looking like this one here. There are no project review templates. And you can create different ones. You can have different drafts available. So if you stop midway through, they'll show here. And then categories would be if you wanted to categorize certain things here to add those categories to your templates. If we wanted to either copy an existing template, so if it's very similar, maybe you do a self-assessment that is the exact same as a performance review, but you have the employee fill it out. So that would be them doing a self-assessment with the same questions. You can copy that one that you've already created and then make it one of the others, whether it be a self-assessment or performance. You can also create a new one if you would like as well. They are required to have a name, the review type, whether it is a self-assessment, so the employee's filling it out to themselves, a performance review, so this is like a standard performance review that you would have from a supervisor, for example, that you'd be able to set up here. A project review, if there's a specific project that an employee is working on, right, that you would like to be able to review, not necessarily the employee, but something that they're working on project-wise. And then we have a 360-degree feedback. This allows employees to provide feedback on performance of other employees, right? Supervisors or management, right? So you can have that go full circle essentially as well. You would create a category for what you want this to be. I usually just keep that at general or HR. Your review cycle type, if it is a one-time, if it is recurring, or if it's manual, it only gets generated when you tell it to generate. And then the review cycle would be if this is a cycling one that is happening frequently. If you want to require HR approval for a supervisor to send this out, you can certainly do that. And if you want them to have a rating scale, so the rating scales are technically optional, you would toggle that on and pick the scale you would like it to use, whether you want it to be categories or questions. And then if you wanted them to be able to put comments, you could toggle that on as well. If there are instructions that you would like to go with this, you could certainly turn that on so the employees can see instructions. Categories and questions, there are some pre-populated ones here in the system for you, and we'll go to an area here shortly of where you can create additional, but they are relatively broken out into standard ones that you see, so professionalism, like the standard ones that are here, and it populates the ones that are in our settings already. You can add a question under this category in our settings. You can remove any of these if you only want maybe 3 of these 4, right? You can say, I don't want this one. I don't care about the company dress. We don't have a dress code policy. And then you can continue to add categories, add questions in the system for different things here to build what those categories and questions are going to be for your review template. Documents, or if there's any additional documents you wanted to attach to this, probably going to be maybe more common for project reviews. If there's some specific documentation that goes along with that project you would like seen. And then acknowledgement would be if you want the employee to acknowledge, you'd be able to turn that on and what that acknowledgement verbiage would be here. Under our performance management, we also have our 360-degree feedback. And so these are temp settings for when there's going to be various individuals. If you don't want them enabled, you don't want to be doing 360-degree feedback, you can toggle that off. So that way it's not even an option. If for your feedback option, you can choose whether the employee can view the feedback, but not who actually gave the feedback. So if you want that to be anonymous, they can view the feedback and who gave that feedback, or if they cannot review any of the feedback that they received. You can also set the number of reviewers. So if you want this to be a department manager and a general manager or something along those lines, you could certainly do that by setting them with 2 reviewers. Goals, this is again a feature that you can toggle on or off. If you do want to have goals set in the system, you can create different categories for what those goals can be. And you can just rename any of those categories if you want to change the verbiage slightly. You can delete any categories that you don't want available, and you can create your own goal categories as well. And then the categories and questions list, this is where that pre-populated list of questions were coming from and where you can add additional. So this is where you can categorize what those will be grouped under, and the questions themselves live under the questions tab. You can reorder these if you want them in a different order, just by a little drag and drop, right, to see where you want them to go. You can edit them if you want to change the verbiage slightly or delete them entirely. And you can add additional questions here, and you will be required to pick what category that will fall under when you're doing a performance review where these questions will fall. So where those categories get grouped. So you're welcome to delete any of the standard ones that comes with the system. Welcome to edit them and add your own if those aren't a good fit for you. For our onboarding settings, these are fields that you might want to require for when an employee is being onboarded. Now, again, onboarding is with our premium version of hrHQ. So you don't have onboarding when you just have basic. But if you do have this enabled for you, you can say what fields you want to force them to fill out. So if you would like to force a copy of a voided check, because we do direct deposit, you want to verify that banking information, you can. Beneficiaries, or if you guys maybe somebody is being hired, you're hiring your employees and you have a lot of drivers, they drive company vehicles, you want to force everybody to provide their driver's license information, you can do that and toggle that on so they cannot onboard without it. Onboarding checklist. This is another one that is newer to our releases. There used to be a standard list that was, it just is what it is, but now we've added the ability per your guys' request to create your own tasks, to change the standard tasks that are already set, right? So if there is things you want to make sure that are done while an employee is being onboarded before they're fully onboarded, like making sure they have their new hire area set up, making sure any accounts or logins are created for them. You can kind of create a checklist to make sure that these are done for the employee by HR, and they can keep track of them there. They can remove any that they don't want. I didn't want this one, I could just delete that, and I can add my own task as well if need be. The system will not force you to have these tasks completed before you finalize onboarding, so it is just they're available for convenience. If you toggle the include off, it's still available in your list. You don't have to delete it entirely. It's just not going to be on them going forward. So you can turn these on and off at any time if you think that maybe you don't need certain ones, or you're deciding to restructure what this list is. Federal reporting forms. These are which ones you want to include in an employee's onboarding paperwork that they are going to be set to fill out, and if you want those to be required. So if you want to include them but not require the employee to fill them out, you can toggle the include and uncheck the required checkbox. If you want to force them to fill that out, you would be able to check the required, and the system will know that they have to fill out that required paperwork. They will not be able to finish their onboarding without it. Bulletin board is a really simple setup. This is a new feature here as well for groups for your bulletin boards. So these are the standard ones that exist already. You can create your own groups as well. The ones that we have pre-populated for you are in office, non-union, remote, and union. And this can be helpful if any bulletin board posts that you have that your employees are going to see should be specific to the type of employee that they are. Right? So if there's a notice of, a union meeting that, your employees should attend, or certain things that are union specific you want to notify your employees about, you can create them for just that bulletin, just that group. Right? So you can add the specific employees. You'd be able to do that by going into edit, and you can add employees straight from here to this group. You can do it on the individual employee profile as well. This is one area that you can do that. And then categories. I usually don't see these changed too often. These are just color codings and names for your different types of bulletin boards. It's just going to give it a little color and consider it whether it's an announcement or an event, general or holiday. It will not change the way that it functions. You can see when you click them, the only thing that you're doing is changing a color and giving it a name. So it's just ways that you can group them and color code them. So these are usually sufficient for most clients, but you are welcome to get creative if you have some other ideas in mind of why you might need different colors or categories for your bulletin boards. Notifications, how you want to notify employees about changes in the system. I usually recommend, like I said in the beginning with my notifications, making it in hrHQ. If your employees are logging in to request PTO, and they're logging in to view their pay stubs every week, they're in there relatively often. So the notifications in the app are usually sufficient. Your employees are usually going to be grateful because they're not going to be getting a bunch of emails. Most people tend to ignore them when they start getting too many emails, and then obviously we don't want that either, right? So having them just be in the habit of checking hrHQ for their pay and all of those things is usually a good method, but you can turn on email or text there. Documents, if there's any documents that you're using and they are required for the employee to fill out, you can change how often or how far in advance you can give them a notification, or the notification shows up. So the default in the system is 1 day. If you want it to be 30 days, or maybe that's too far out for you and you'd like yours to be 14 days from the due date, you can set a different notification date in the system. You can also set a reminder for a overdue document. So if a document is overdue, you can say how many days you want to notify them. So if it's every day, they'll get a notification every day until they do it. Sometimes people will do every 7 days, so it's once a week, right? Those types of things you can set, and that's once it is already overdue. Certifications is the same concept. You can set, you can see here I set mine for 30 days for the expiration date advance notice. Number of days that the reminder would be sent after the expiration, and then you can choose to send notifications to all employees or only specific ones. So you can pick, my default is all employees, but you could set this to all except, or you can do only, right? So include all except, and you can list the people who should not get it, or you can do just the selected employees get the notifications for certifications. We already went through our little integration tool. And then the last big one before we go into users and permissions is our employee self-service. So employee self-service is what we call our employee side, right? This is the employee side of hrHQ. The two main settings here are employee profile photos. If only HR is allowed to upload photos, maybe you take a picture of your employees on their first day and that's what they're going to use for their profile picture. You don't want them, uploading or changing this picture in any way. You can make this be HR only, or you can set it so the employees are allowed to upload their own picture for their profile. Reports. This is reports the employees can see about their own information. So this is not time card history for every employee, right? It's just specific to them. Time card history report showing what they have time card wise, and then their earnings and deductions report they can run for a historical period for earnings and deductions rather than just paycheck by paycheck if they need to see a range or something. You can choose to enable or disable that so they don't have any reports. If you disable both of these, they can still get their pay stubs in their W-2. So I would like to clarify that this is not going to restrict them from accessing the other functions of the system. It is just if they are allowed to run these reports for themselves or not. And then we have our users and permissions. So our users list is going to show all of our users that we have in the system, and then what their name is, their email address, their current permission group, and then their status of where they are at currently. You can toggle any of them by sorting them by the number and kind of sorting the order that they're in by employee number, name, email address, right? You could sort them in a lot of different ways. You could even sort by active or inactive. Now we'll show you what their permission group is here. And you can also disable a user. So if somebody is just an admin login, right? So these ones over here that say admin are not tied to an employee record. They are strictly admin access only. If they are no longer an admin with you and you're creating a new admin login, you can disable it. It does not impact their employee record or their ability to see pay stubs because they would have a separate login for that. We know that because they have admin as their employee number. So that means they must have a separate login for the employee side. Okay, so it's two separate logins. And then delete would be to delete a user altogether. Maybe you created one in the system and then you no longer need them, never use them, it's a duplicate, anything like that, you can delete those as well. Permission groups. These are the 4 permission groups that automatically come preloaded with hrHQ. You have employee, HR admin, HR office, and supervisor. When you first import employee records from Foundation, everyone will always be imported as an employee, and then you can then change permissions to give them more permissions if need be after that. So the default is going to be to import them as an employee, which means they're only going to be able to access employee self-service. They can see their pay stubs and things like that, but they're not going to have any extra permissions that you would be worried about them seeing like other employee information. So that's why we import them as employees, and you can change them then after the fact. HR admin is what I'm logged in currently, full access. I can access everything in the system. HR office is relatively close to what an HR admin do. The main function that they can't access is they can't change other people's permissions. So the admin can change permission groups. HR office can see them, what all the users are and the permissions, but they cannot change them. If you were curious about the very specific differences, you can click into any of the permission groups and see what users are currently assigned and then the permissions that they have. And you'll see whether they do or don't have access. And some of these do expand further. So like on our settings menu, by default, if you wanted somebody to have the ability to edit all of the settings except for users and permissions, you could say no access and things along those lines, right? So you can toggle them on and off for those. Now, like I said, we are in HR office, and while you can see this is saying they have access, HR office still does not have the ability to change those. They can just view them. So I always like to clarify because it's not quite clear here. You wouldn't be able to change the permission there. You're not able to edit the core standard canned permission groups that exist in the system, but you can create your own. and then you can add users from here. So this is where your permission settings change. So if I wanted to create somebody, take somebody and make them a admin when they're a supervisor or vice versa, somebody's an employee that then becomes a supervisor, you go into that permission group and you can add a user, and this will show anyone who is currently not a supervisor, so you can move them to a supervisor. Permission groups here is where you can create your permission groups. You do have to name it, give it a description. You can copy an existing permission group and then tweak it from there, or you can allow them full access to all. When you do limited, you then get all of those little check boxes and drop downs to expand all of the information that you want them. And some of them are pretty detailed, right? So like on the employee tab, maybe we're allowed to see our OSHA information as a supervisor, but we don't want them seeing other things. You can really get kind of relatively granular in here with these. Perfect. So now that we have gone over our total settings of how everything works, all the pieces are going to come together as far as using these functions, right? Those want to be set first, so the functions are going to work the way that we intend for them to, making sure that all of the information for when we're onboarding an employee, they're going to have the paperwork that we need from those settings, that when an employee does log in, that they can see their check on the right date, right? So those are all things that you want to set in the beginning. So we're going to start with an easy one. We're going to start with our bulletin board, right? The bulletin board is really straightforward. It's like just like it would be if there was a bulletin board in the office, right? It's where you can post flyer information notices for your employees. This isn't anything that's going to be like a document sign off, like here's our new employee handbook we need you to sign. This is just going to be notices you send out. So a great example I always use for this one is your employee annual picnic. If you guys do an annual get together, you can create a bulletin board for that. And so you'd be able to create new posts. You can say what the language is going to be in, if this is for all employees, or if this is for a select group of employees. So maybe we do a separate one for our field guys than we do for our office employees, or we do a field Christmas party and an office Christmas party, or something along those lines. That's what those groups were in our settings, where we can determine who falls under what. And you can select that group to be able to pick who should be seeing this on their end based off their group. Publish on employee dashboard. Typically, this is going to be set to yes, right? This is so they can see it on their employee dashboard. Otherwise, they won't be able to see it if it is not on their employee dashboard. You can say the date that you would like it to publish. So I can create it now and have it publish tomorrow if I wanted, or next week. And then when it should expire. So if the company picnic is on 8/1, then obviously there's no reason for it to be up there after that event date. So it should fall off the dashboard after that. You can give the category here, whether it's an announcement, a holiday, an event, give it a name. You can upload a thumbnail. So it's like a picture that you want to go along with it. If it's like a picture of last year's company picnic or something along those lines, you can upload a photo thumbnail. And then whatever verbiage you want in that bulletin post. Now you can create links. My example here is maybe I have an RSVP link through either a Google Doc, or maybe I have a sign up genius for a potluck that we're doing, and you can sign up to bring different things. You can insert a link so that way the employees can see that, they can click it, and it will redirect them to that registration page, that sign up genius, whatever it is that you guys are using that you want the employees to access. And you can also upload additional attachments like documents. So if there's a physical form that they need to fill out and send in, or something along those lines, a flyer, you can certainly upload attachments that they can get with that as well. You can preview your bulletin. You'd be able to see what that will look like here. I don't have a picture on mine, but if you did, it would be up top here. You'd be able to see a little image here. And then who would be able to view it would be over here. If I have the ability to pull up a image for me to put on here so you guys can see a visual. This is a driver's license, but it'll do the trick. So we'll clip our driver's license, but pretend this is my bulletin board heading. So you'd be able to see here, whatever that is. You can see your little preview. If you realize that was wrong and that should not go on the company picnic, you can remove it. You can post this. You can also, mine was already existing, right? And so mine's saying you can't do this after, in the past, I was modifying my existing one, right? If I was doing a new post, your options are to save, draft, preview, or post. I was modifying my existing, which is why I got scolded that it was in the past, and I was trying to modify it because obviously we cannot time travel. Any drafts that you had would be available here for you to review them at any time. If you have posted one and you would like to view it or edit it or delete it, you can do so here as well. So even if they're already posted. You can manage your published posts here. So this will show you all of the published posts that are listed. You can have a maximum of 3 on the bulletin board at a time. That's the max that employees can see. So if one is over and you want to disable it so another one can go there, you can do that. And then you can arrange them in the order you would like them listed. It will have this little megaphone icon so you know that that one's posted without having to click the manage posts. Employees is going to be one of the main areas that you guys are going to be when you have hrHQ. Now, this will be basic or your premium version. You do have access to this employees here. And this is where you will see the employee information in your system and all of like the users that are in here. So you can click into an employee to access their employee information. This should be exactly what is from their employee record in Foundation. And the rule of thumb is that any changes that are made once a employee record has been synced through to hrHQ should be made in hrHQ and pushed forward to Foundation going forward. So that way we're not having to consistently go in and sync it, make sure it's there, overwriting things that our employees have pending, things along those lines. We want to keep a workflow that is uniform. So once imported from Foundation, your changes should be made in hrHQ and then pushed to Foundation. Now you could see in here all the employees' information. You can see the personal info. You can see their employment information. Bulletin groups, if you wanted to add them to a specific group, can go here. But these are all fields that exist on the employee record. So if they're already filled out in Foundation, you're not going to have to refill them out once they've been imported into hrHQ. It's already handled. Contacts is where their emergency contacts will go and the dependents that they're filling out. When they are doing onboarding, the system will force them to give an emergency contact. The dependents and the beneficiaries are optional based off those checkboxes that you enabled in the settings for your onboarding. You, as the admin, do have the ability to add contacts for them yourself and make those modifications. So if the employee does change that, they can do it on their end, but you can also do it on yours. The payroll and taxes tab is going to show their current payroll information pulling from Foundation. So if somebody gets a pay raise, you want to come in here and you'll be able to update that information here, saying, if they are switched from hourly to salary, or if their rate is changing, something along those lines, you can change what those are here and save. You as the admin can also see their pay history in here. So you can see their prior pay stubs. You can sort it by year. You can use our filters and see those individual pay stubs as well. So if an employee's calling you and they're like, I'm looking at my pay stub, I have a question on it, you can pull it up and see exactly what they're seeing without having to send you what they're looking at because it looks the same for you. Direct deposit, you can add additional direct deposit information here. The employees can do it on their end as well, but you have the ability to change it. If they maybe send that to you, you can do it yourself as the admin. The tax info is another area that you can update that as well. And this is one of those areas that we recommend you having your employees do. And we'll go over the employee side here shortly, but they can update that tax info here. and then what the employee is currently enrolled in for W-2. They could say whether they are currently electronic or not electronic. Benefits and deductions, you'd be able to see any benefits or deductions that this employee has. So for this example, they have child support. I am not able to edit this here because it is a deduction. Right? Benefits are modifiable by the admin and by the employee. Deductions are not. So I cannot here. If this child support were to change, that would be a change that gets made in Foundation and synced back to hrHQ. Now, we do have some clients who prefer to set everything up as a benefit so they can make those modifications on their end. And if their employee tries to change it, they can just reject that change, and that is fine too. So if you do want the ability to be able to change even things like this on the hrHQ side, you absolutely can set them up as a benefit and be able to change them. And if your employee makes a change, you can reject that change. Time off will be any time off requests that those employees have submitted. It will show them by approved, pending. You can sort them by different time off plans. So if you have, maybe you have sick and vacation are two different types, they will show a breakout of what they have available for each. You can see the plans that they are currently signed on their employee records, so you know what plan they're on. And if you want to change that plan, you can do so here or assign them a new plan entirely. And then you can see the historical of any plan. So if they've moved from a 1 week of PTO to a 2 week of PTO, it will show the date that that has changed. Plan history. Any adjustments made, things along those lines. You can request time off for your employees as well. So again, sometimes we just have employees that are not super tech savvy and they're really struggling with it. And so maybe it's easier for your team, if they call in and then somebody logs it for them. You can still do it through hrHQ. You can request it on their behalf, picking the plan type and the date and filling out all the information just like an employee can, but you can do it as as an admin. You can say a specific day. You can also do a number of hours in that day and any comments if need be. Maybe Mike called and asked me to put this request in for him, if you wanted to make a note along those lines. Documents are going to be documents specific to Mike. Okay, so these are different than documents that are over here that are specific to the company as a whole. Okay, these are Mike's documents and Mike's documents only. Any documents added in the document section over here on the left are going to be for our employees across the board, all employees. This would be if we only wanted Mike to receive these documents. Any forms that he fills out, like a new W-4, new federal reporting information, or any documents we've asked him to verify will be here as well. We are going to go through how to do those today as well. This is where you will find those as an admin. Certifications, same thing. Any certifications that Mike has can go here. Performance reviews, any active ones or historical ones. It does remind you about when the canceled ones are going to be deleted, so that way you know. Notes are just what they sound like. You can create little notes on the employee record here with a date, title, and notes, just to keep record on the employee's profile. And then goals would be if you set any active goals or historical ones for them as well. And all things that we're going to be going through here today. Alrighty, so I think now is a good time that we're going to pause for our break. I'm going to actually, while we're going on our break, we've invited Dylan to speak for us and share some product news. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the presenter off to him so he can share that. You guys can also feel free to grab a drink of water. We'll take about a couple minute break and then we'll get back to it.
Thank you, Katie. I'm going to go ahead and get my screen share. Appreciate everybody, being on this training webinar. They asked me to jump on here from a sales side of things, just to kind of give a little product update on some features. So only take a couple minutes. I'll pass it back. But my name's Dylan. I work on our client sales team. I've been with the company for a little bit over 6 years. I worked in support and training, and now I work on the client sales team. So I go out to all of our events, and I hear a lot that, in person, that they go, well, we didn't even know you guys had those features. We didn't know you guys offered that or this. So just give a quick update on the foundation software family. Going to do a little brief presentation on some of the other HQ Suite products, but just here's a little overview of the entire platform in general, with that newest one being down here at the very bottom being Vendrix. That's our newest product offering. That's the corporate card and expense management system. We're going to be releasing some AP automation and some bill pay as with that platform as well. So we're super excited about that. So Foundation's this ever expanding product offering to be your kind of all-in-one back-end office solution, to manage everything that you guys need. So to give you a little highlight on some of the other HQ Suite features that we have outside of just hrHQ, we have our project management solution. This is fully integrated with Foundation as well. Allows you to track correspondence and emails, daily logs, and then all of your custom document tracking. So we can do custom formatted RFIs, submittals, purchase orders, change orders, subcontract agreements. We can customize AIA formats and help your project managers track AIAs, put in their percentages within Project HQ, and then submit those directly into Foundation. So project management is a nice feature, and with our HQ Suite, as you guys probably already know, you can kind of pick and choose which features are going to work best for you in the HQ Suite. So you can add like hrHQ by itself, like you guys do have, but you could also add, project management or even the executive reporting as well. So the executive reporting is going to be a mobile-friendly, high-level job cost reporting. So this is going to be like having your project managers be able to access their WIP reports, but not have to log into Foundation to view those. So they're going to be able to come in here, drill down into jobs, cost codes, see budgets versus actuals by cost code, by project, and actually drilled all the way down into the history. So a project manager could be in the field and say, hey, I realized one of these AP invoices was coded to the wrong cost code or job or something of that nature. Pass that information along back to the field, or I should say the office, and that information can get corrected, and have them be able to see that on the go, accurately pulling data out of Foundation. And then the last one that I like to look at is going to be the safety HQ piece. Safety is more and more becoming a product that a lot of our clients are finding that they need to track with a little bit more thoroughness. So this is going to give you that one area where you're able to track all of your safety information. So do toolbox talks, manage inspections. You can fill out a custom form. So we have forms in the system, but you guys can create dynamic forms or send those to us to create them, and we can have those safety data sheets, job hazard assessments, job safety analysis and stuff of that nature, incident reports, hazard reports, OSHA 300 for incidences as well. So it's a one area where you're able to track all of your safety needs, and that integrates with Foundation as well. So it pulls maintenance items like your employees, your jobs, and as well as your equipment in the system as well. And it offers you reporting so you can track compliance and how often these things are getting done on a job by job basis. So definitely another nice product. So again, just to kind of wrap up, the HQ Suite, those are some of the additional features that we can add there. So if you're interested in any of these, additional features within, Project HQ or within the HQ Suite, or any of the other products here on the screen under the Foundation, software family, feel free to reach out. There'll be a form at the end of the call, or just let somebody know in the comments here and the questions that you're interested in one of these, and I'll have somebody on our team reach out to you on that stuff. So appreciate the time. Be quick here. I'll let you get back to the training webinar. I'll pass it back to the team to continue.
Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate your time. I'll go ahead and switch back to my screen share here for us. Perfect. Okay, so we are back in, same screen that we were on previously. Any changes that we make in our employees. So yes, we're going to get a notification up at the top when someone has requested time off, right? So we have requested time off here. Any changes to our profile, whether it be to our 401k change, to our address we've changed, to new information, anything along those lines, they will show up here under approvals. You'll see a little number indicator when there is approval that needs to be reviewed, and it will make a list of them where you can review what those changes are. So I changed a pay rate for Mike because he got a $3 raise. It's going to show you what the prior information was and what it is changing to for you to be able to approve. If you are to reject something, let's say maybe somebody changed their social security number, whether that have been a typo or something, maybe when they're changing something else, those things you can reject and tell the employee why. So if there are multiple changes, you will be able to reject individuals and others. This one I'm going to go ahead and approve and submit. Now, obviously, we changed Mike's pay rate because we are admins. Mike does not have the ability to change his pay rate because he is not an admin, right? So there are fields that you'll see when we get into our employee records that they can and cannot access and change. Time off. Our time off request will show here for anybody who has pending time off, any approved time off or rejected time off will show here. And your calendar view is super helpful when you're deciding if you are or are not going to approve that time off. Now, admins can approve time off and supervisors can approve time off. So you can set that to where if somebody's supervisor, we'll get into a supervisor role here and you can see what their screen looks like. It's much more simplified than the one that we are in, but a little bit more functionality than an employee record. They would be able to see any requests and approved time off as well. Now, this calendar view will allow you to show any approved, pending time off. You can toggle that on or off. You can remove events. So here's my company picnic I added. I can toggle that off if I'd like. And you can even look by specific employees or a specific team. So I just want to see this supervisor's employees. You can do that, and your supervisors can do that as well. Now, I've added some events to my calendar, right? So I added 4th of July in here. Now, it's important to note that when you add a holiday, so when I added this 4th of July, holiday, if you toggle this holiday radio button, the system assumes that that is a paid holiday. You guys are closed. I guess it doesn't necessarily mean paid, but you guys are closed. So if an employee would try to request PTO for 4th of July and your office is closed, they will not be able to because your office is already closed. So that's something to keep in mind when you are adding holidays to the calendar. If employees would want to take PTO on a day that maybe you guys are closed or something, or there's a holiday but you're not closed, you can specify that. So that way they are able to request the PTO if maybe it's a holiday, but the office is going to be open. So if they want to take it off, this will prevent them from taking it off. Event would be how you would want to enter it. If it is a day that, so maybe if you guys are open on 4th of July, or maybe it's, I think some other ones in the system or some other holidays, but if there's a holiday that you guys are open, but you are allowing employees to request off, that would be considered, you'd want to put that as an event and call it 4th of July. Some people even specify like office closed, so there's clarification for people. You can have them repeat. You'd say when that starts and ends, and then you could send like notifications and stuff as well. Now, this annual company picnic I just want to clarify, I added this myself manually. It did not come from my bulletin board, but I added it so it would be visible for the employees to see on their calendar just for convenience. So this is not a requirement for you to do, but certainly helpful, right? Especially if there's something that is going on during the week. So if there's a mandatory meeting that everybody needs to be at or something along those lines that's going to be during a day that you don't want people requesting PTO or that could impact PTO requests, it's definitely helpful to have those in, and you can put time frames or make them all day. Just an easier way to view those. Documents. Documents are functions that are one of our newer functions that we've had for a little while now, where you can add general documents that the employees can see, right? So when I say general documents, and I'm under this documents section over here on the left, these are for the entire company, right? Anyone can see these. These are not specific to one employee. Okay? So if I wanted to just provide the health insurance benefit coverage or some other policies that I have here, our employee handbook, our social media policy, just a reference area for your employees to be able to see these documents, you can add them here. And it's very straightforward to add a document. You just click Add Document. You give this a name for whatever you want this to be, description, a category for maybe if I'm doing a company policy, if this is administrative, employee resources, maybe just an FYI or resource for them. There's ways to group them. Expiration date is optional. Does not need to be, they can always stay up there and you can delete them when you don't need them. And then browse here is where you could then pick whatever the document is. So this one is going to be an employee drug consent form. So we'll do here. So we'll say drug testing policy, for example. The contains restricted information does not mean that it's going to, it wouldn't allow, like it's going to be employee specific. I just want to clarify that. Just by checking this doesn't mean that your employees, specific employees can be selected to pick and to not pick this information, right? So this can be filtered on those permission settings of who can see this information. Document sign-off would be documents that you would want the employees to actually acknowledge that they received and sign off on them. Now you have a couple different ways to do this. You can do a one-time thing. So maybe you send out a one-time blast to all your employees. You can have it be onboarding. So I know we were getting requests for this a lot when we first released hrHQ, that people wanted custom onboarding documents. You can do that. They're just accessible after the employee has done the standard onboarding paperwork. So the legally required ones that are already set in their like their federal information and things, all of those lines. So once they are fully onboarded and they've finished their paperwork and you finished your side as the admin, they would be able to then do these onboarding documents, so they get them right after. Recurring could be something that you are doing a recurring every year. So maybe you require your employees to sign the employee handbook every year. You can do that. And then any drafts that you have would be here. One-time ones that I have in here are just my employee handbook, another drug consent one, and I made one inactive because it was last year's. Now, when you want to create that document or edit one that already exists, it's very straightforward. You're saying whether it's a one-time onboarding or recurring, you're naming that document. You can give a expiration date if you'd like, and then you can require a signature and the acknowledgement checkbox be checked, or one versus the other, right? So just checking a box saying, yep, I read this, no acknowledgement, or if you would like them to sign it as well. The one that needs employee verification will be uploaded here, and then if there are any supporting documents to go with it, you can do that in related files. If you want them to sign and verify each one, you would want to put that under the document files, not the related files. This one will have an acknowledgement on each one. Your acknowledgement verbiage, if you want advance notice or an automatic overdue reminder, those can all be set. If you wanted to send those to people from here, if they're like a one-time, you can do that. You could say send, you're gonna say when it's due, you can schedule it to be sent in the future, who it will be sent to, right? So if it's everyone, if it's going to be, so this would select all, then you can remove specific people if you only want certain people to be getting them, right? You could certainly do that to be able to remove anybody that's in here. And then you can add additional documents in addition to this one, and it will send that to the employees. I'm just going to remove some of these so we're not getting too many people getting alerts. Certification management, again, we've already created those different subcategories and categories. This is where you can add or edit different ones that you have in the system, and you can add certifications here for different names that you would like for those. So like I have, for example, if you want different types of OSHA forms, different types of secure certifications, whether it's safety or training, if it has a subcategory, and then if you require an issuing organization. So if this is, you need something from, like ODAT, or you need something from OSHA, or you need something from different like something from the union, right? Anything along those lines. You can create different certifications your employees can upload, or you can upload in here. This is fully customizable, whatever types of certifications you would like, and they can upload those documents. Your performance management, this dashboard here is where you'd be able to see any that are currently in review, when it's completed, and when the completion is done by the supervisor. We will come back into this one because we are going to issue some reviews. We're going to log in as a supervisor. We're going to log in as an employee to do some of these functions, and then come back to see how this screen changes as far as admin goes. But you can review your templates, you can see your different performance reviews, any project reviews, 360, and your goals for any active, completed, and canceled. So it's just a way for the administrator to see all of those. And then reports are going to be kind of high-level reports over all of your employees, certifications, employee contact information, time off, all those types of things. Again, we can come back in here a little later to see some of those reports after we've done some transactions in our employee and our supervisor here. But you can run these by certain date ranges. You can click generate if you just want employee contact info. You can say if it's a specific supervisor, if you want to sort it by trade or department, and then you can run your reports and get a report by just contact info. So different reports in there for us. Now for our employee side, that's going to be a little different. So I'm going to sign out of our admin, and we're going to look at employee and supervisor. So we'll go to supervisor first because supervisors have more functionality than the employees do. And they have access to the administrative dashboard. It is a different version of the administrative dashboard, but it's the administrative dashboard website nonetheless. So again, I have my two-factor authentication to make sure that we are secure here. I like to use the Authenticator app. Now you can see the supervisor side of the admin dashboard is much more simplified, right? That immediately takes you to time off requests for any time off that they have from their employees. It will show them that same calendar view with those same events that admin had already put on there for them to see. So they can see their time off requests and approve them from here. And then they have the ability to do performance management. So I wanted to start here first so that way we can certainly assign some sort of review for someone. We're going to do let's say we'll do a project review. Let's do a 360. Annual performance review. And we're going to have this one be manual. We're going to have it start on 7/17, end this on the 19th. And we want Mike, and we want him to be reviewed by, let's go with our admin. I have lots of myself in here. Let's go with this one. And I'm assigning that already scheduled template, right? Again, if I need to preview it, see what was this, I don't remember what this one is. Is this the one I want to send? You can preview what that's going to look like so you can make sure that you're sending the correct one by looking at any of those, by previewing those. You can see any active ones, right? So I just sent this one over. It's active. It is currently pending the reviewer. You're able to see the cycle start date, end date. You can cancel if you need to cancel the review. And then you can see any history of any reviews that are automatically done. Same with any performance reviews, completed, canceled, all here. So very condensed, simple format for the supervisors. They're just able to approve PTO and they can do performance management. And that is if you give them access to those. You are welcome to create a different permission group to take any of those functions away. You do not have to assign supervisors if you don't want them approving PTO, if it should be the admin. Now we're going to go into the employee side and we're going to go check out our employee, Mike. Now the employee side, the website for that is going to be hrHQ dashboard.myhqsuite.com. So it is a different website. You still have to do the two-factor to make sure that it is secure. Like most programs these days are requiring these to make sure everything is nice and secure. And we are currently logged in as Mike. Now I have a document that I was sent as Mike that doesn't have acknowledgement yet. I did not acknowledge it yet. I can dismiss it, or I can go view those documents. If I want to view what it is that they wanted me to review, it's in my verified documents. You can see I could have gone there directly by going to documents over here. If I click into that, I can see what the information is. My document has not been verified. I can download and view that document from here. If I wanted to download this employee handbook, I could do that by clicking on this little link. It'll download. It'll show me what that document is that I'm supposed to review, and I can verify that. If I want to sign it, I can use my pen, I can use my finger, I can use my mouse on my keyboard in order to do that, and then verify it. So I've now verified it. I can confirm that I verified it here. That will then go back to HR for them to have that verified document. They now know that I have that. So these are where all of my documents will go. The HR documents are those documents that I shared that were just company-wide documents. They weren't specifically for me. They're just ones that are available for me to look at and any other employee, right? My uploads are documents that I've uploaded, maybe that I want HR to see that they need access to. If I need to upload, maybe they want a copy of my driver's license and they want everybody to update the newest ones, right? So we'll say this is my driver's license and I'm going to upload a copy of my driver's license. The driver's license is there. I can download it anytime if I need a copy of it, and it's available under my profile for my admin. Now my profile is here up under my profile. I can see here that I have some stuff pending approval, right? And that pending approval is actually that that raise that I got specifically is what I am thinking. I think there's one more change I might have made in there as well. But if there's anything pending approval, it requires them to approve that change before you can then make more changes, right? So that makes sense. This is also letting the employee know if you changed your address and you're not seeing it here, you're not going to send 7 requests for you to change your address because you're not seeing it change. It's saying, hey, the request was sent to the admin. As soon as they're done reviewing it, then you should either A, see the change, or B, be notified if they rejected that change. Now, I did approve that change for Mike, and so where those approvals go through is in Foundation. If I go to this Approve Pending Employees, that is located under Payroll Daily in here. You can also get that if you open an employee record. You will get a pop-up notice that says there are pending employee updates. Do you want to approve them? If you say yes, it will take you to that function also. So we can see here, I'm going to approve that change for Mike. I can hit view to view what is being changed, right? So there's that pay rate change we did, $32 to $35. Say okay here. I've checked the approve. When I hit approve, it brings up my employee record where it made that change, and then I can hit OK to verify and save it. Lets me know that that has been completed. Now that it has been approved, that message goes away. So if Mike needed to change something now, he's able to change his address, phone number, whatever that is that he needs to change. You can see his personal information. He can see his employment, and he now sees that he has a raise, right? So now he sees that. He wouldn't have seen it until it was applied in Foundation. He is not able to edit this area. So as you can see here, when I was on the personal tab, I was able to edit this information. On my employment, obviously, I do not have control over this information, so I do not have an edit function. Contacts here are my contacts, so I can see my employee contacts. I can add additional ones and mark whether they are emergency, dependent, or beneficiary. The bare minimum that you need to add a contact is first name, last name, and relationship. And then depending on what you're checking here, these settings will change. So if I have dependent, it's a social security number and date of birth. Beneficiary, same thing. But if it's just emergency contact, that is not required. My direct deposit information, I can choose to add a bank account here if it changes. If I have another account, if I need to update it, I can pick whether it's checking or savings. If I want just a portion of that, maybe I want $150 to go to one account and put my account number and then my routing number. And if my system is requiring a voided check, because I selected that when I was on my admin side setting up. But if that is not required, you wouldn't have to do this portion. Withholding, this is where you can update your tax withholding information. So if I wanted to update my W-4, I can come in here and I can edit that information. I'd be able to put, like, I can do quick hire, address, all of that information here to populate. So security number, whether I am single, married, filing jointly. So it's just like the W-4 form. Filling out anything that you need to here, you acknowledge that, you can give it a little signature, and then you can save that. You can view that information here. So you could see that document, and I'd be able to view that W-4 here. So it automatically fills all that out, puts my signature on it for me there. This is what the admin will see as well. So you can see that information exactly as it filled out. State withholding is going to be a form that you can upload. So this one is not fillable like the one that we just had for the W-4, but it will allow you to download that Ohio form, fill it out on your phone, your device, and then re-upload it. You can also manually flag that I've sent a hard copy to the HR department if you are having trouble uploading it. This one's a download, fill out, and re-upload for each of the different states, depending on the employee's record. My benefits and deductions, I don't have benefits, but I do have deductions here. I can see that I have a child support that comes out. Okay, so again, I can't change this. It's just available here. Time off, I'm able to submit my time off request here. I could say I want PTO and I want to take next week for vacation. Right, so I'm gonna go here, I'll submit all that. I'm gonna do 8 hours each day. Comment if I wanted to set here and submit. Now, I always like to clarify that PTO requests, even after they have been approved, they are informational and they're in the system for you to see in hrHQ, but they do not automatically create time cards for payroll. Okay, HR, it's just what it sounds like. It's a request. We have approved that request, but it is not going to automatically generate time cards that are hanging out there ready for us to process payroll. So before you run your payroll, you can check this request, check the request here, run a report, look at the calendar, whatever's easier for your team to see who took time off so you know to pay them and give them a time card for that time off. It will not automatically enter that into payroll. Pay history, this is where I can view my pay stubs. So I can come in here and I can click into a specific day and it will show me all the information that I have. Now I've turned on fringes in my admin side, so I'm able to see my fringes here. So I can see all of my fringes listed out for what those fringes are. I can also see my dues under my deductions, right? So this person's a union person, dues, but my fringes are here and it does show the specific fringes that are calculated, right? So that's something that you guys can see with the breakout. It's not just one lump dollar, they could see that breakout. You can print from up here. Might need to adjust your Zoom settings a little bit, depending on what your computer defaults are, printer defaults. If you're on a phone, right, I've seen it do it different ways, but this is where you can see each of those pay stubs that you need. And it's exactly what the HR admin sees as well. You can go back as far as you need to if you have prior years. My W-2, this is where you can elect whether you would like to receive a W-2 electronically or not. So if I would like mine electronically, you can certainly acknowledge that, so that way it will show up here. You cannot retroactively change this. If W-2s have already been submitted electronically and you did not consent before that date, it will not then show up here. It would have to be given to you by your HR department. This needs to be consented to prior to that date that HR has set in the admin side for when those notices and those W-2s go out. So not a bad idea to send a bulletin board or send a notice to remind people that if they have not consented, they should, if they would like their W-2. They would be listed here for them to be able to see that. We already looked at documents because that little pop-up I got took me there directly, but this is where you go to get there yourself. Any certifications I have, because I have employee management turned on, I could add my own certifications. I have an OSHA 30 and it's expiring next year. And then if there's a URL it needs to go to, credential ID, and if I need to upload a related file for that credential, I can do that. Performance review. This is the performance review that my supervisor had sent me. I can come in here and I'd be able to see this. Now I am waiting for my reviewer to review it because I did a 360. If I just did a self-assessment, I could do that and it would show the self-assessment. I'd be able to fill that out. But this one is pending reviewer, so I cannot review this one yet because it's not my turn. My goals, if they had set any goals for me, or if my supervisor has or HR has, I would see those here. I could also see my historical goals, and then there's my 360 feedback if it was done in there. Billboard, bulletin board. This is the list version of the bulletin board. You can also see your little tile bulletin board as well to go there directly here. Your bulletin board is also on your home screen. So home screen, when we first logged in, here's your bulletin board. You can have 3 that will be here and you'd be able to see all of them, right, by clicking that and it takes you there directly. You can also see when you're on your home screen, your name's up top, job title if it's filled out on your employee record, who your supervisor is, your hire date, that company information. You can see a breakout of your hours by earn code here in 2 different graph forms. You see it for previous pay period, or you could see it for year to date. Year to date, same thing, these are going to be the same. And then your time off. This will show approved and pending requests with a link to be able to take you to the PTO area to request PTO. You can also go there directly with the time off, but it will show your time off available and how much time you have taken. Those reports will only be available if we gave access to those employee reports. So if I wanted to generate a time card history report for this month, I could run that report and I'd be able to see whatever I had. I don't think I had paid this month. You'd be able to see that, and you could also see your earnings and deductions report. So if I wanted, let's say 1/1, there's something more of this. February. We got something in here. There we go. Now we got results. So you can see your own earnings and deductions. Again, just your own. Now under my employee profile, like I said, you can make changes to your employee record and they will see. So I'm going to do that from the full process. So when we get back into the admin, we could see one more change. So maybe I'm a junior. I'm just going to change something in here a little bit. I updated my information. Now I'm going to request some paid time off, which I had already done, right? So I have this pending. So if I sign out again and I go to, close this guy, and I go to the admin side and I log in as my supervisor. Beautiful. I can see right when I come to my screen, it knows I can see here that Mike requested time off. I can see all of the dates. I can see his comments. I can see the total hours. if I wanted to look at the calendar to see if I have any other employees that have already requested time off, so whether they are or aren't available or able to take that time, I could do that here to see what other pending time, even if there's other pending or approved time. If this looks good, I would be able to check that and I can approve that time off. Go to our admin side. Typically, you won't be signing in and out of multiple people because you are one human, but we're using our imagination here, obviously. Wonderful. So in my notifications, I can see that Mike has updated their personal information. He's also changed his W-2 consent. He's requested time off, W-4, right? We got all sorts of notifications that we have in here. If I go to my employees, I'll see those approvals here that I can review. I see he changed his name and he changed electronic consent from one to the other. If I wanted to approve or reject one or the other, I can. Who am I to say who somebody's name is? So I'm going to go ahead and approve this, and he is more than welcome to have electronic consent. Perfect. So I no longer have anything pending. I do, however, have that pending in Foundation, so it will be back in our approved employees. It's instantaneous. You can see it's here immediately. I can view what those changes are that were made. Junior, electronic consent, yes. I'm able to approve those changes. And voila, he's now up to date. So you always want to go through the full process. Now, most of those functions, with the exception of like performance reviews, are available in that basic method, right? So requesting PTO, updating employee records, those are all things that you could certainly do with the basic hrHQ. Now, the onboarding and our new hires, this is only available with our the premium version of hrHQ. And this is where you can do onboarding and track where that onboarding progress is. So I currently have 3 employees that are in the middle of onboarding. One has submitted all of their information and they're waiting on me. One, we're pending Foundation, right? So Foundation meaning it needs to be imported into Foundation. He has done everything he needs to, or that is forced, right? So while he is only 50% of the way completed with this, I didn't force EEO or the WOTC form, so that's not technically wrong, right? So he did only the ones that he was able to do. Now that little checklist that we looked at in our settings for admin shows up here on this particular person, where you can keep track of, I sent him an email, we set our job expectations, his new hire area has been set up, right? And you can see in the completed what you have done. Now, even if these are not all done, it will let me submit his onboarding and he could be completely done. Okay? So it does not have to be completed, but you can add tasks directly from here as well if there is something that needs to be. This will show you the sections that are incomplete. It's kind of like a guide. So you're like, what does this symbol mean versus this? It's letting you know which one is not filled out. You can review that information by clicking the review, and it would show the personal information that he has filled out. Now this one is pending Foundation, and pending Foundation means just what it sounds like. In Foundation, if I go to approve pending employees, I'm going to see James Hayes, which is this new employee that we have. I can view and I can see all of his information. He didn't exist before, but he's going to now, right? And I can check approve. I could approve that. It will create that employee record, and then I can hit OK and save. Now, if there's anything that wasn't filled out, so if I forgot a trade or anything along those lines that we want to fill out, that maybe it's not a forced thing, but we want to go ahead and fill it out anyways, you can. Right? Once you adjust all those, it's completed and he is now fully put through to Foundation. If I go back to my new hires, he has fallen off because he is fully integrated and now he exists under employees because he has been fully pushed through in both systems. Now back to my new hires. There are two different types of new hires, right? We have onboarding and we have quick hire. Okay? And so the main difference between onboarding and quick hire is that onboarding is you're going to send this information to the employee to be filling out all of these documents, right? Quick hire is going to be more so if they're in your office, you're filling the documents out with them, so you're just going to do it all on your end. So it's not really done in two steps. If you fill this out, then we fill this out. You can kind of do it all at once. Your little info symbol here will say that as well, where it tells you kind of the main difference either way. Now, regardless of the type of one that you send, just like the note says here, the employee is going to receive an invite to their email to activate their hrHQ account, regardless of what type you select here. So if you do onboard, they get an email for them to click the link and then complete their onboarding paperwork, right? They'll go in, they'll fill it out right online. Once that is completed and HR has done their side of the paperwork, that same login is what they will use to access their pay stub and request PTO. You know, it's the same thing. So it's not like you're going to create a new login after they've done onboarding for something completely separate. It's the same login. So they're essentially setting it up right from the get-go. So it's usually a good idea to tell them to make sure that they're using an email, you know, that they're accessing all the time. Get a good email for your employees for your onboarding that they use often, because it will be their login for accessing their pay stub and requesting PTO. Letting them know that up front will save you a headache down the line when they're like, well, I don't really go into that email very often. I want to use a different one. You can certainly make sure they know that. So you could fill out the basic information that they need here. We're just going to call this I'm going to cheat. And whether they are full-time or part-time, they're going to start on Monday in Ohio. Their supervisor is going to be John's supervisor. Additional supervisors, you can add a secondary one if they're both able to, you know, review things along those lines. If they do have two supervisors, you can. And then I can set my permission group here. If I do a quick hire, their email, their employee by default, but I'm going to say that this one's just going to be a basic employee. This secured access checkbox works the exact same as it does in Foundation. That's all it's doing is checking that checkbox in Foundation when the employee record's created. So this would then save and it would send an invite. Right. Now it's created and onboarded, and if you wanted to create a new employee, you could do that. So if you have quite a couple different ones, you can. Okay. Now quick hire will be a little different. This one we're going to do maybe Jane and John both got hired at our company. They're both starting on the same day, same office. They're going to have the same supervisor, and they're both just employees. Okay, same concept. I'm going to save and send invite. Now, when I go to my new hires, we're going to see different statuses. So we're going to see that Jane is onboarding because she's going to do her own onboarding paperwork. And we're going to see that John is a quick hire. So there's no task bar of like where his progress is, because we said that we're doing his paperwork, all of it, right? We're going to either do it with him in our office or he's doing it. Jane's has a progress tracker for what they have completed, so you can keep track of where she's at in the process. If we realize that either Jane's struggling with getting into there, she's not super tech savvy, she doesn't have the documents she needs, or she does but doesn't understand them, she wants to do them in the office, you can skip her doing onboarding and change it. So she's not stuck that way being onboarded. You can skip, and then it will make her where you can do a quick hire. Essentially, it switches her over to a quick hire. Okay. You can also do the reverse and assign John to onboarding if you don't want him to be a quick hire anymore. Now that's where you can assign the plan, you can cancel your onboarding, and you can reset. Resetting onboarding would erase everything the employee's done. So if Jane started doing some of her paperwork and she got stuck and we decided to take it over, it would show us at least what she did. But if we wanted to reset the whole thing, reset would clear out everything that they filled out. Cancel would be canceling it all together, and then assigning it would be where you can assign John onboarding and he can enter his own information. Right? And you can choose to clear any information that you might have entered. So you can go both ways. Now, this is what it will look like when you're filling out that information for what they filled out so far. So you're going to be able to fill out this information, whether it be for him, he's filling it out himself, right? You can say whatever you want this to be. That's not a good year, 1980. And then information here, whatever the address is that we want. If we require license expiration date, it would show that. And then save and next, then moves to the next field. So it's going to run you through, be able to add all of this information. This will be Jane. And she's my spouse, whether she's my emergency contact, and phone number being required. So she's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then all this other information being optional because I'm only selecting emergency contact. You can add multiples of those if need be. Direct deposit, where you could say you want paper checks or direct deposits. If you say direct deposit, you do have to provide banking information. This is where you could fill out and upload the states form. You could fill out the federal W-4 form. You have your I-9, you have your EEO if you're requiring that. Your withholding information for what you want to fill out for the W-4, right? So I can say whether I'm joint, none. This is all going to be employer. You can see it's categorized, right? So the employee is obviously not going to know this. They're not going to know, whether something in foundation needs an override, whether what fields do and don't need to be filled out on the foundation side. These are the fields that go through. So no override is most standard. No add-on is most standard for you. Residents, no. Locality makeup, no. And adding any local taxes, again, this is going to be something that HR and payroll knows rather than whether the employee knows they need it or not. So that's why it's on the quick hire side, because we can do all that. We can also add a vacation plan right from the get-go, right? So they're on the 1 to 5 year plan, and that starts maybe 30 days after their hire date. So we're going to future date that and save and move to the next one. So you're doing both the employee and the employer documentation here and being able to fill all of that out. This day, starting on that day, with department, she'll be administrative, Ohio, trade, clerical. If I wanted to add her to an office bulletin group, I can. If there's OSHA info, if I need workers' comp on my employee record, I can do that. So if she's clerical, right, so you're able to go through all of this information, filling out all of the things that you may or may not need and the ones that are required. Some are required, some are not. And she's gonna make 25 an hour. And 52 because she's weekly. Now you don't have to go all the way through. If you need to, go collect information, if you need to go see different things, you can go and then you can come back and work on it later. It'll tell you where you're in progress and how far along you have to go through all of those. You can finish that information. So if I'm noticing that I need my final review, you'll be able to see everything that we have and we could submit onboarding if all of our information that is bare minimum required has been filled out. So it's going to let you know that John is missing a form W-4. So if you click that, it's going to take you there. I'm going to upload a dummy file. We're still missing W-4. There we go. State was forgotten too. It's saying, are you sure? They'll no longer be able to make modifications. You'll be able to update their employee profile in hrHQ though, but it's saying just making sure that you confirm. You can email this to John. You can download a copy of it from that screen before you submit the onboarding as well. Perfect. Once I submit, I can go back to that summary if I wanted to see where we were at. It's again showing pending foundation, so I know all I'm waiting on is to pull it through to foundation and my approved pending employees. There's John Smith. I can approve. It pulls in the record, and then if I needed to tweak anything, I absolutely can. Now, the nice thing about if you have the onboarding option, if you have the premium version of hrHQ, this is a social security number I already used because I'm making them up, so forgive me here. Yes. Perfect. The nice thing is that when you have onboarding, there's no need to then sync it back to hrHQ. The only reason we import them into hrHQ is because we're normally creating employee records in Foundation and pushing them to hrHQ if we don't have the onboarding capability. Okay. So now he's available in our list. He's here with a normal employee. He is tied to an employee record. There's no need to go into settings and add that information, importing it with our importer tool like we did it and talked about in the beginning. You don't have to do that because he was created starting from this side. Excuse me. Now, our time off is still going to be flowing through to our admin, even though our supervisor approved it. It came through because we can see that here now as well. So you're able to see that time off. So when it's time to run payroll, I can either A, use my calendar, I can use my time off requests and look under my approved here and use my filters for maybe some specific dates, or I can run a report. So you do have the ability to run these reports, whether you want to see pending and approved time off, you can generate that here. And let's say that we're looking at, we're running this past payroll, who was out this week, even though I'm future dating. And we only care about approved, because if it wasn't approved, then they don't get paid for it. So we'll see here, 40 hours, the exact dates, and I know whether it is you're saving this, whether you're printing it off and giving it to the person who runs payroll, if they are not in hrHQ, you can do that. You can also create a separate role, separate permission group for your payroll person if it is different than your HR person, where they can just access things like this, right? You can customize those permissions so that way they're only seeing the pertinent information they need in order to be able to run payroll. I'm going to do a performance review for our supervisor, see if what he thinks about himself. We're gonna make this same thing. The reviewee is going to be supervisor. Oh, sorry, me. It's gonna be me. Let's go. Here's admin only. We're gonna have Mike review him. He doesn't have access, doesn't work. So let's see if this will go. We're gonna do all of me because there's so many of me. This should be good. It's backwards. Sorry, reviewee. Supervisor reviewer is me. There we go. So there's John. We're going to sign out of here. We're going to go into the employee side because he can only access his own reviews from the employee side. So even though John has the ability to give other people reviews, in order to do his own, he has to go to his employee record, right? Because it doesn't do him any good to be in the admin side if something is for him as an employee. dismiss our documents that we have to review. Maybe here. So here's my self-assessment that I can do here, and I can start my review. You can go through. I could say, I think I'm the best communicator ever. I think I'm above average. I'm okay at being on time. Maybe I always stop for coffee. My work is perfect, right? So you can go through and kind of review these as need be, things along those lines, and give yourself your self-assessment, things along those lines as you need to go through. So here's to OSHA. I'm super safe. And if you wanted to provide notes, and you certainly can, because we set those and turn them on. And then if you wanted to upload documents, you can sign, say, yes, I did this. It gives you a timestamp, and then you can submit your review. It's pending reviewer because the reviewer has not reviewed that yet, right? So you did a self-assessment. Somebody needs to then go acknowledge that. That would be the admin that was assigned to it, right? So whoever did that, and they would review and see your assessment. Now, as a supervisor, you still have all the same functions as all of the other employees do. So nothing changes for my benefits and deductions, time off. I'm not going to see the other employees' time off here. I'm just seeing my request because I'm on the employee side, right? In order to see the other employees, I would need to be on the admin side. So I would need to move over here. Beautiful. So that's how I toggled over. Great. I don't have anybody that I need to approve for their PTO. I don't have anybody that is in the process of that I need to review for, but I can see, there's 2 that are pending reviewer, right? But not any that I have to do that I haven't started. Right? All right. So obviously that was a lot that we fit into our sessions, right? There's a lot with hrHQ. I know we go through it quickly, but this is meant to be a high-level overview for a lot of people to view. Hopefully you got your questions answered. If not, or if you had specific questions that were unique to maybe your unique setup, you can absolutely log a support ticket with us. We do please ask that you fill out the survey at the end of the webinar to give us feedback so we can find out what we need to do better, provide some feedback for us. We're always looking to figure out what webinars can benefit you guys and your team. But please feel free to log a support case if you have anything specific requested. And you guys enjoy the rest of your day.